story. And I really appreciate that because I really admire conscious, intentional thinkers. Can you walk me through how you and your brother make decisions when it comes to the business, and then diving into things like recruitment and leadership, any of those areas that you want to dive into and stories you want to share of how have you made good decisions and what is your decision-making process?
So I think, again, speaking to the podcast, when you had Ray Dalio on, I mean, the key to his entire success is principles. And I think that a lot of times when you think back on the things that you love the most, your most amazing journeys, your best experiences, they're usually spontaneous things. And the best ability to be spontaneous is when you have a clear and methodical approach to how you make decisions, because it gives you a lot of room to be spontaneous because you know you can stay within this realm. And so for Ryan and I, when we think about how we're making decisions, we anchor them in clear deliverables that we have to achieve. And so I think, like, a lot of times when people want to make decisions, they try to make something for the moment, but they don't think of where that's going to lead them. And so back to thinking of the entire journey and the destination, I think you need to know when you're making this is a key decisions, not like daily what you're going to have for breakfast,
Yeah.
but like key long-term decisions is you need to know, where does this lead you and where do you want it to lead you? What's the intention behind making this decision? And so I think that for us has been something that's been really, really important, is that uh, Michael Burke, who's the CEO of Louis Vuitton, he gave me some of the best advice that I ever had, and which is, you need to think about, do you want to do something for the moment or do you want to do something to be dynastic? And he gave this advice to us at the right moment in time. We heard it. This is back, I think, 2016. And Ryan and I always wanted to build something dynastic. And so if you want to build something dynastic and you want to bring people along for that journey, you have to make decisions and have the approach for the long term. You can't do it for the immediate. And so all of the decisions that we make are based on building essentially this house. If you want to build a house, you have to have a solid foundation. If you don't have a solid foundation, it doesn't matter what you put on top of it because it won't last. And so the way that we look at it is, every decision we make is another brick in building this house. And so if you have one bad brick, you can replace it. But if you're constantly laying bad bricks and you're saying, oh, these are the best ones that I can get right now, but they may not last for the long term, you're going to have to eventually replace it. And so the way that Ryan and I look at it is, make fewer decisions, but make better decisions. And take more time. And there's nothing wrong with saying no. Like, you say no 99 times so that you can say yes the 100th time. And that 100th time is worth more than 100x what you did if you would have said yes all of those other times. So when we're thinking about decisions, it's really keeping that at the heart of it, is that, where are we trying to go? Why are we trying to go here? How are we going to get there? And why should we say yes to this? And like, if you do that and you stand behind each of your decisions, you'll be proud of your decisions, and then you will typically make the right ones for yourself. You can't be right 100% of the time, and you shouldn't hold yourself to that standard, and it's irrational to do so. But if you feel confident in your decisions, the intention was right, and the people around you feel great about it, you will typically make the right decision. And I think, like, one of the things that Ryan and I have always tried to do is make difficult things as simple as possible, which means remove the excess. You're thinking about a really challenging situation. Should I go here? Should I do this? In large scenarios. And take away all of the excess from the decision. What's at the core of the problem? What's at the core of why you want to do this? And then evaluate that and be transparent and honest with yourself. Like, a lot of times people don't want to be honest with themselves. They build up these other things and they take on these external factors and say, like, I'm doing this for other people. And they're not really being transparent with themselves. But you inherently know what you should do. And you're going to make some wrong decisions along the road. And it's okay to make a wrong decision if the intention was right, but you don't want to make intentional wrong decisions. And like, people do that all the time and they don't talk about it. And so I think, again, that's something we discovered early on in the thought making process and the decision process is, if we feel confident in it and the intention is right and it's for the long term, it's in line with the dynastic approach, and the people around us will embrace it, then that's the right decision. And sometimes it's much more simple than you think it is. And I mean, we're complex creatures, so we can make any simple idea very complex. I mean, I've listened to enough of your podcast and other people that are leaders in the space, and it's like the whole goal with whether it's meditation or anything else that you're doing is you want to try and simplify the experience, because that's when you get most of your clarity. And so when you're thinking through the decision making process, that's what you try to do, is try to make it as clear as possible. And the easiest way to do so is to make it as simple as possible.
Adam, masterclass in decision making right there. I mean, that was brilliant. I love this because, you know, it's these things are just thrown around, and I can tell that how much grappling you've done with the idea and how you've simplified the idea for yourself. And you're so right that the reason why decision making often feels so hard is we're allowing noise in and distractions, and then we're not really asking the right questions. We're not asking the right people. We're looking at it from the wrong direction. I loved something you said there. You said that people sometimes make intentionally wrong decisions. Can you explain and expand on that a little bit more about how we do that? I read an amazing book when I was like, I think I was like 16, 17 years old, and I read a book called Predictably Irrational by Dan O'Reilly. He's one of my favorite authors. And he wrote a book talking about how humans make predictably irrational decisions all the time. And
Yes.
And I read that book and I was like, no way. I thought I was smart. And then you read that book and you realize, wait a minute, you're not as smart as you think you are, because so many decisions are the way things are presented and what you miss. Tell me about what you meant when you said we make intentionally wrong decisions and how we end up there, because sometimes I think we're not good at making the right decisions because we don't know where we go wrong.
Well, so I think a lot of times it's you don't know why you are making the decision. So most of the time, people can be pressured. And again, this is back to like a peer pressure
Great answer.
situation, is that you can be pressured into making a decision. And you at your core and know that this is not the right decision, but you believe that you need to make this decision. And so you in every instance you can't make the right decision. So that's not what I'm trying to say. But we can all point to moments in our lives when we've done it, where we said yes to something or we do something knowing we should not do it. There's so many things that happen because of that. And there's so many results of that compound and become worse and worse and worse because we do these things that we don't truthfully believe in and know that they're not right for us to do. And so I think a lot of times, think back to your worst decisions or the decisions that people make that they're not necessarily proud of, or even just the wrong decision. They knew what the right one was. They intentionally ignored it because they thought somebody might be upset if I say yes, or it's usually they're making it for someone else. They're not making it for themselves. So they don't put themselves at the center of this decision. They're putting others there. And you can't help other people if you can't help yourself. And so I know it's a difficult thing and you can't apply it to every situation, but I learned really, I'd say early on, that if I'm in a place of strength and I'm in a place of support, I can help you much better than if I'm intentionally just trying to help you and I know I'm going to be at a disadvantage. I'm not going to be able to help you. I can help someone much better from a position of power than I can a position of weakness. And that's like using power as a positive, not as a negative. And so I think that when people are making these intentional wrong decisions, a lot of times they're not coming from a bad place. They're coming from a place where they think they need to do it to help others, but they're not going to be in a position to do it. So I think that I identified that relatively early on because I felt that when I felt the best, I could help more people and I can make better decisions. And again, it's like back to like happiness is the core of success, right? If you're happy and you have that energy and you have that charisma and you have all of the things that resonate from you, people will gravitate towards you. But if you're pushing out negative and people don't feel good about being around you, you're intentionally making bad decisions, you should not go around somebody like that. And so I think that a lot of times it doesn't come from a place of negativity or something that's bad. It comes from that you're trying to help somebody and you're intentionally making the wrong decision and you end up hurting everybody instead of helping them. So I think that, again, it's not being selfish, it's taking care of yourself so that you can help others. And I think, like, again, when you think of intention, you think of like purpose. If you do it from a positive place and you do it from a place where you think you can help yourself, you can help others, you're going to make the right decisions. And I think that's how you avoid those intentional bad decisions or intentional wrong decisions, because they don't lead to too much for anybody. They just end up hurting you.
Great answer, man. If someone right now is listening and they want to start a business, side hustle, really build something, what's the first three things they should be thinking about? If someone's listening right now going, Adam's advice is great, I have an idea, I want to get started, what's the first three things they should do?
Well, I think it depends on what the type of business is. But I think the first thing you need to do is identify how you're going to start it. And so I think you need to know, like, you could have the best idea in the world, but ideas don't matter much if you don't have execution behind it. So I think you need to figure out, how are you going to execute it? Two, I think you need to figure out what you don't know in terms of where you want to go and who you can ask to help you get there. And then three, you need to understand that it's going to be longer, harder, and more expensive than you think it will be, but it will also be more rewarding. So you have to have that same type of energy as you go through it. I think there's clear, specific things that apply to different businesses. So I don't think there's generalization. It's more so the idea. But starting anything, the easiest way to do it is one step at a time, and you will become better every day, even if it doesn't feel like it. But repetition leads to progress. And so I think that that's really, really important when you're starting something. And again, like, you have to believe in yourself, because belief is different than hope. Hoping for things won't get you very far, but belief in things will get you very, very far. So I think that those are key underlying principles to those three things. But starting anything is the easiest way to get to where you want to go.
For sure, for sure. Can you, Adam, I want to shift from like your mind and your ideas and the way you think to how you live. Can you take us through a day in the life of Adam? Like, how does it start? How does it end? What does it look like? What's been your routine more recently? What are some things that you've changed over time that have actually created momentum and acceleration?
So it's funny, because my schedule is completely different than I'm sure yours and in most in general. And I think this, again, becoming comfortable with who you are, this was a process, and I didn't have the ability early on in the journey. I do have much more of an ability of it now. But I go to sleep at nearly 4 a.m. every day, and I wake up closer to 11 a.m. So I think a lot of times when they think of entrepreneurs and people in my position, they think you're up at 5 or 6 a.m. You're beating the sun. But I'm the exact opposite, and I found that my greatest point of inspiration and joy is typically during the nighttime, when there's less activity, because I can focus on where we want to go, what we want to do, and also on myself, and back to inherently knowing who I was, and my brother as well. We've known since we were 15 or 16 that the night schedule worked better for us, but we didn't have an ability to implement it because we were in high school, we were in college, and then when we're starting the business, you have to be on other people's more traditional, I guess, like calendar or schedule. And so as we got to higher levels, we were able to continually shift it. And obviously we have people on our team that supplement the early mornings and whatnot, and we work the late nights. But I really embraced what my natural predisposition was for my schedule, and I knew that I would be better if I could operate on this schedule. And just like morning people love to be up in the morning, I love to just push it as far as I can late into the night. And I think there's nothing wrong with it. And a lot of times it doesn't get glorified because it's a difficult schedule. It doesn't work for everybody. It's not essentially normal, but for me, it's been the absolute best thing. And being able to build my schedule the way that I want, I believe, is the ultimate luxury. Because again, if you can control your time, in not necessarily what happens throughout your time, but control how you allocate your time. Most people would rather have 10 minutes of you at 100% than 3 hours of you at 20%. You can't, even though you spend more time, you can't give them all of you. And so one of the things that I identified as I was building my schedule this way and really leading into it is I can give people 100% of my effort when I'm on a schedule that aligns with when I want to go to sleep and when I want to wake up, and also when I want to work out. If I can anchor those specific things, I can give everybody much more of myself in a shorter period of time. And again, like I've heard you speak about it before, and you said it beautifully. And it's true. Like most of the people in your life, Jay, they would prefer for you to be with them for 10 minutes, give them 100% of Jay. It's an amazing experience. Than for you to be sitting in the room on your phone, dozing off and not giving them the energy that not only they deserve, but that you deserve to give them. And so I think that that's something that I identified through how I built my schedule now. I mean, I work out every single day, and I think that's, for me, it's a really important thing because discipline has been something that has been pivotal to our journey too. And I believe that with discipline, if you anchor yourself through specific things, it gives you more freedom. It's discipline is something that opens you up and gives you more opportunities for us to be spontaneous, more freedom. Is because you have clear pillars, clear anchors. It's like if you're playing a video game and you get to the checkpoint, you can be more brave in your action because you know you can always go back to the checkpoint. So like that's the way I live my day-to-day life. I try to have specific windows where I'll do calls, but then I leave everything else essentially open because I love the chaos in a positive way, and I love the spontaneity in a positive way. And I think that if for me at least, this is the way I found my schedule. If it's too back to back to back to back and scheduled out, there's no real opportunity for the spontaneous excitement, which I think that we all need to have in one way or another. And I don't think that it's the same for everybody, but I think that you have to leave yourself the ability to discover something, or to discover a relationship you didn't think was going to happen, or a partnership you didn't think was going to happen, or a friendship, or things of that nature. And I think that being able to anchor myself, knowing I'm doing these few things at these few times, leaving this window open, so that I can try things. And again, like the greatest opportunities I've ever had have come from taking a chance on something and then anchoring it in the way that I live my life through my schedule. And so, again, it's something that I've had to work towards. It wasn't like that on day one. It's as you get further in the journey, you hone it in more. You have more opportunity to try things, and you have more control. I think, like, again, one of the key things for me in terms of success is control over schedule and control over time. You don't know how much time you have, but if you can control how you allocate that time, that's truthfully the greatest luxury. And that's something that I think is pivotal to success. And I think, again, when we're thinking about our team, specifically in the headquarters, everybody has different schedules because everybody works differently. And I've seen how positive it's been for Ryan and I. And so we try to translate that to the team as well.
I love hearing about how different your schedule is to mine because it still represents the same thing to both of us. So
yeah,
you still have discipline, you still have focus, you're still prioritized around when you can be creative. It's based on self-awareness and what's good for you and right for you. So the values that we're choosing our schedule on is the same. Like there's a very similar value set, and it just looks different. And that's actually the beauty of life. Like that. And I think that's where we go wrong, where we go, you know, in a few years, people are going to be saying, oh yeah, I need to do what Adam's doing. I need to sleep at 4 a.m. and, you know, wake up. And it's like, well, that's not really going to work. Or people can be looking at it going, oh yeah, I need to wake up like I need to go to sleep at when Jay doesn't wake. And it's like, well, that's not really what we're saying. What we're saying is if you're self-aware and you create discipline and rhythm in your life and space for spontaneity, then you got to figure out what works for you and where it works for you. And so I love hearing how different our schedules are because it just proves that there are multiple ways that it can look, even though there's a depth of why they're created that way. And in addition to that, what I really appreciated you were talking about is I think we think of discipline as either back to back, and we think of laziness or spontaneity as completely free. And what you've actually said is what discipline is that you've created a discipline where you can be, what I've been thinking about a lot lately is you can be effective and efficient. And efficiency is often seen as discipline, but efficiency means you do a lot of stuff. But effectiveness means you do important stuff. And I think that's what I'm seeing is missing in so many of our lives is that we're trying to be efficient. We do the laundry, do the dishes, we spoke to the team, we check this off. But then you're like, well, I haven't had any creative inspiration today. I haven't been effective. And so I'm really glad that you actually explained discipline to be the meeting of efficiency and effectiveness together.
I mean, I think you said it in an efficient and effective way. the way that you just like illustrated what I was trying to get across. But it's true. Like I think a lot of times people think of discipline as something that lacks freedom, but discipline is the thread in the opportunity that gives you freedom. And so I think, and again, you as you become more efficient, you can become more effective. But it's hard to be effective if you're not efficient. And so I think again, you said it in an amazing way, and you took a complex thing and you digested it. But it's been really paramount, and I think it's something that is the way that my life has gone. And again, like I think that we have the same theories, you and I, in terms of what we want to accomplish from our day-to-day lives. We do it at a different time. Like I'm working out at midnight, you're doing things early in the morning, but it's we're looking to get the same type of result. And I think again, when you were talking about being self-aware, that is the absolute most important thing. If I tried to work your schedule, it wouldn't do the same thing for me. If you tried to do mine, it wouldn't work. But I think the fact that we've both been transparent, honest with ourselves, and self-aware of what makes us show up as best as we possibly can, and then that makes us better for other people. And so I think for us, like that's an incredible way to phrase it.
Yeah, and I respect and appreciate that in you so much, because I think there is a noise. I mean, I get different noise. So my noise is, hey Jay, why don't you hang out late? Like, why don't you come to this? Or why don't, right? And then your noise is, well, if you're an entrepreneur who's disciplined, shouldn't you be waking up earlier? And and
Exactly.
it's just really interesting how, like, no matter what you do, there's going to be someone who disagrees with it. And that's why it has to, and that's why I respect what you just shared. So I'm so happy to hear that you have this. I had no idea that that was your schedule. Now I know when to spend time with you. And I really like that, because I really hope that everyone who's listening, you're feeling more confidence that you're not doing it wrong if you're doing what's right for you. But notice that Adam and I are still basing it on values of discipline, of focus, of creativity. It's not that Adam's not just saying, oh, I do whatever I want, whenever I want, and there's no structure. He still even has a sleep. You still have a sleep routine. It sounds like when you're like
Yeah.
4 a.m. to 11 a.m., right? There's still a routine. And so that's what I find is really healthy. Adam, this has been so powerful, because what I love about the way you talk about entrepreneurship is that it's strategic and intentional, but then there's the spontaneity and creativity. And I'm so excited to see what you continue to build. It's, you're 12 years in, and I cannot wait to see you just continue to crush it. I mean, you're already crushing it, but for the business to continue to grow and grow and grow. I wanted to ask you, before we come to the final 5, around creativity and innovation. And you spoke about spontaneity there, meeting someone random, like bumping into an idea. I love that so much. What has been your secret to creativity and innovation? Where have you continued to find that discipline and that connection?
So I think one of our, I don't know if secrets is the right word, but again, back to my brother, like the fact that there's two of us and that we're able to go through life together and we've had similar experiences. I mean, my brother, like to be fully transparent, is more creative than I am. And like when we're thinking of color stories and whatnot, Ryan's always building these beautiful color stories. Cody, who's our design director, is amazing. Jake and is our content director. He's incredible. Sam, who heads up social, she's amazing as well. And just the whole team, like I could go on and on. But one of the things that I discovered, and this actually came from my mom. So and you wouldn't know it based on what my life has become, but until I was like 25 years old, I'm 34 now, so no, maybe even older. This is like 2013. But let's use 25 as a number. Until I'm 25 years old, I hardly have ever left the country. I left the country twice actually. I went to Mexico one time and I went to London one time, and it's like each one was for 2 days. And then when I'm like 25, my mom basically says like, you guys need to do more and see more things. You need to discover more things, because we were so laser focused on what we're going to do. So a lot of the things that I've reflected on today with you, Jay, is things I've learned more specifically over the last 6 or 7 years in terms of like the spontaneity, the freedom. And I've always had the discipline, but it was almost at a level that was too high. And so my mom had said, they were going to Hong Kong, and it was for this wedding. She's like, you need to come. Like, it's an old family friend. You have to come to this wedding. And I had no intention of traveling overseas. Long story short, Ryan and I end up going. It's the most incredible trip. Just like going outside of the country, seeing something completely different, changing our perspective. And when we're there, we get inspired by this bridge. And this bridge that I'd never seen pictures of it, anything. We get inspired by this bridge. We end up creating a shoe based on this. We end up going to another country years later, inspired by that. And so I think that travel allowed us to change our point of view, change our perspective. When you're thinking of creativity, a lot of times there's things in your day-to-day life that when you're thinking about repetition, you don't pay attention to it because it comes almost a second nature. It's reoccurring. But when you go to a new place, everything is new. You have to pay attention to your surroundings because it's uncomfortable, not necessarily in a negative way, but in a positive way. You get all of the stimulation through your senses. You're seeing things, you're meeting people. And so when my mom pushed me out of my comfort zone, then it completely changed the way that I was viewing the world. And it made it so that I was much more open to receiving what the world had than just pushing what I wanted to do or what the intention was. And so I think like that made it so it's kind of like, I don't know if you remember on the old cell phone signals, when you would make a call going out, it would be like an arrow pushing like this. But when someone's sending you a message, it's going both ways. And so that's kind of what that calibration did to how we discover creativity. And now, like, one of the greatest things that inspires me is movement, whether it's movement in cars, movement on foot, movement in the air. And so I think like movement in general, changing your surroundings, not necessarily going to another country or another state, but even going anywhere, just discovering. I think the opportunity for movement, that's really where like the creativity came for us. And then again, I think that if you can take an idea, lean into it and see like, and speak to why this makes you feel different, you'll find inspiration in it. And I think that for us, like we have an incredible team that finds inspiration in different places, and then we're able to talk about it. And the greatest thing you can do is be a great communicator, because if you can articulate what your vision is, and whether that's through verbal, whether it's through art, whether it's through anything, people will understand and people will feel it. Not everybody will, but some people will. And I think like that's one of the things that's gone really, really far for us, is that we've been able to take these inspirational things, like our streamlined shoe, which is my favorite one, is inspired by Japanese souffle pancakes from when Ryan and I were in Tokyo, and like Ryan's obsessed with them. But we took that and we made it into a shoe. And so it's like you never know where the inspiration is going to come from, but if you allow yourself to receive it, you can get it. And I think like that's something that a lot of people don't think of. They think they have to put it out there and push it, but a lot of times just receiving what's around you will give you a lot of inspiration into what you should do.
I am so glad I asked you that question. I was about to not ask you that question, but I'm so happy. And even though you're giving, of course, which is wonderful to hear, the credit to your team and your brother for being the creative ones, but the fact that you've been able to observe that and see that that's where it's come from, and the example from your mother too. I love that, Adam. Adam, this has been phenomenal, and I hope this is the first of many. I mean, I want you to.
I hope so too.
I want you to come back on the show regularly and give us updates as things continue to grow for you and APL and your brother. And as I said, massive fan, supporter. Getting to hang out with you at a pumpkin patch was the weirdest place that I ever thought me and you would meet each other. But we had a great time because we just had
it was so much fun.
We just had a personal growth, self-development, complete connection there. But Adam, these are your final 5. You know the drill. It's rapid fire.
I do. 1
word to 1 sentence maximum. You've heard everyone, so you should have had enough practice by now. But Adam Goldston, these are your final 5. Are you ready?
I'm excited.
Awesome. All right. So the first question is, what is the best advice you've ever received?
I have to mix 2 because I think it's important. The first is, because they go together. First is when I was a kid, my dad would say, if you touch it, you can catch it. It was about sports, but I think it's applicable to life, which is if something's within your grasp, you can get close enough, you can make it yours, and it is possible. So you have to, if it's in your sight, you can make it yours. The next thing that aligns with that is Larry Ellison, and again, I heard this at the right moment in time, said the larger the apparent risk, the fewer people that will try to go there. And so that's basically is if it seems scary, it seems risky, but you have the deep down belief, fewer people will try to do it. So you actually have a competitive advantage. And I heard that when Ryan and I were thinking about starting APL. So that kind of was all I needed to hear. And it pushed us over the edge.
I love those answers so much because, I think about the things in my life as well. They're just lines that I live my life by. And it's exactly what you're saying. Like, it's not like you knew those people, or it's not like you had a 10-hour conversation with them. It was just, you heard someone say something that what you said earlier. So one of Einstein's lines is, if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough. And that is what I live my life by. I'm like, if I can read as many books as I want, but if I can't explain that idea with simplicity, then what's the point? And that's kind of what I built my life around. And then there's another beautiful thought by Martin Luther King, which is, the people who love peace need to learn to organize themselves as well as those who love war. And I love that because that's kind of where I get my, I want to be empathetic, compassionate, loving, kind, but I want to accelerate in the most strategic, focused, driven way, because you can't just be this fluffy, woo-woo kind of vibe, because that doesn't make change. And so those two, and those are not two that I have been familiar with, those thoughts. And that one about risk, that's going to stay with me for a long time. So I really appreciate you sharing that with me. And I hope everyone who's listening can realize that you don't need to meet someone. You don't even need to interview them. If that, you could literally just hear one line and it could change your life. So love those answers. Beautiful answers. All right, Adam, second question. What's the worst advice you've ever heard or received?
It was actually around the time when I heard what Larry Ellison said about risk. And it was when we were in school and Ryan was in the business program, and somebody had told him, don't even try it. And the idea was, like, you can't possibly do this because you don't know how to do it. But I think that if you try something and you fail, you tried it, you'll learn for the next part of the journey. But if you never try it, then you automatically fail. And so I think, like, that thing, and again, I know it's not as much of a nugget as the other ones, but don't even try it. I think so many of us hear that throughout our lives, and it gets conditioned into us. So I think flip that, just try it. But don't even try it is the worst piece of advice that I've ever heard.
Question number 3, top 5 rappers of all time. Because I know that this we didn't get into this, but I know that I love rap music and hip hop music too. I grew up on it. I know that it's a big part of your life. So let's hear your top 5.
Nipsey Hussle, Rick Ross, Jay-Z, Young Jeezy, and T.I.
Nice. Good. Great list. I literally just interviewed Lauren London earlier today, who's a dear friend of mine, and she was, married to Nipsey. So
it's like, not to get off topic, but like a lot of Nipsey's thoughts on entrepreneurship, and I had a few great conversations with him when he was alive, but like the way that he looked at it was, and we used to talk about it, like, was so similar to the way that we thought about APL, like in terms of building something independently from the ground up. Like Ryan and I spoke at Harvard, at the Harvard Business School, and one of the things that we talked about, and this was right before Nipsey passed away, was he did this interview and he talked about taking the stairs, not the elevator. And that's been paramount to our journey. So I think, like, I was a fan of his when I was in college because I went to USC. He's from South Central. So like we were hearing it when we were in the locker room and everything like that. But just what Nipsey did, what his thought process is in entrepreneurship, and just like building people up around you. If you build within your community, you can help so many other people. And if you start local, you can take it much further. And just like, not only was he incredibly talented, but like he was just like he was a leader and he was a thought provoking person, and he lived what he said. And so I think like again, like he was super 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 inspirational. In addition to being an incredible rapper.
I love that, man. Thank you for adding that note. That's, that's beautiful insight. And I'm really glad again I asked that question because it led to an even deeper takeaway. All right, question number 4. How would you define your current purpose in life?
I think it's maximizing each day and staying focused on the future. So I think it's being able to enjoy the present, but it's still being excited about the future. Like that's really, really important to me. And I think that's what gives you energy to keep going forward is just enjoying today, but being excited about the future.
All right, Adam. And 5th and final question. What is something that you used to value, but you no longer value?
Probably nostalgia. I mean, I think that I get so excited about what I'm doing today, where we're going in the future, and I think I've done amazing things and we've done incredible things. But a lot of times, we live in the past and we don't, and that keeps us from enjoying the present. And so I think that I can appreciate the past, but I definitely love the present, and I'm excited about the future. And I think that that shift of perspective has been something that's really been important to my journey and also just my happiness as a person.
That is such a good answer. We've never had that before, and I love that answer because I couldn't agree with you more. I always saw individuals who lived as if their best years had already gone. And that's such a hard way to live because life is so much
100%.
longer than you think it is. And so that is a beautiful answer. Everyone, make sure you follow Adam across social media so you can connect. Make sure you follow APL across social media. And I want you to make sure that you tag me and Adam and APL in any insights that you gained from this episode. There are tons. Like I said, I hope you're making notes. Second of all, go listen to it again if you weren't making notes. Third thing, recognize that Adam is a true modern entrepreneur. Like it's highly strategic. It's highly focused. There's creativity. There's spontaneity. There are so many lessons to learn from this incredible human. And Adam, I've had so much fun today. I've learned so much from you. I think there have been moments in this interview where you've said things that are going to stay with me for a very, very long time. And I personally am going to make sure that I apply them in my life. So I want to thank you for those gifts. And I cannot wait to continue our friendship, to continue to see you succeed and win and continue to build. And I'm excited to be a part of the journey, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay. I mean, I appreciate it. And I think like you've done so much to inspire so many people. And I mean, there's a reason why you have the #1 health podcast in the world. And it's just people can come here, they can learn a lot, but they can be inspired. And I think like the greatest gift you can give to someone is inspiration. And then you got to leave it up to them to execute. But you've done a lot of amazing things for so many people, and I couldn't be happier to be a part of it. And again, like just becoming friends with you and getting to know you over like recent time has been incredible. So I'm happy that we have this friendship. I'm happy I could be here today, and I appreciate your support. And obviously, I hope that everybody listening to this just takes this as something that can help push them, even if it's just one step forward. Just take something and make their lives more enriching.
It definitely will, man. It definitely will. Thank you, Adam. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you, everyone, for listening.